At 95, Clint Eastwood finally speaks up about Robert Redford. Clint Eastwood was born Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, California. From a young age, Eastwood's upbringing was shaped by the economic realities of the Great Depression, as his family moved often in search of work before finally settling in Piedmont, California. Standing tall and lean with a quiet confidence and rugged good looks, Eastwood's early life did not immediately point him toward Hollywood stardom. He worked odd jobs, including as a lifeguard, forest firefighter, and steel worker, while slowly developing an interest in performance. His natural presence and charisma eventually led him to small acting opportunities in the 1950s, though stardom would not come quickly or easily. His beginnings in the entertainment world were marked by persistence, resilience, and a gradual climb up the ladder of recognition. Eastwood's breakthrough came when he was cast as Rowdy Yates in the television western Rawhide 1959 to 1965. The show gave him the chance to showcase his stoic demeanor and commanding screen presence, qualities that would become hallmarks of his career. However, his real transformation into an international star occurred when he traveled to Italy to collaborate with director Sergio Leone in the now legendary Dollars trilogy of spaghetti westerns, A Fistful of Dollars, 1964, For a Few Dollar, 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966. As the man with no name, Eastwood projected a new kind of Western hero, mysterious, laconic, morally ambiguous, yet undeniably magnetic. These films not only cemented his place in cinematic history, but also helped redefine the Western genre for a new generation. The momentum of those spaghetti westerns carried Eastwood into the 1970s, where he began exploring more diverse roles and collaborations. His portrayal of Inspector Dirty Harry Callahan in the crime thriller Dirty Harry 1971 created yet another indelible screen persona. The character, a tough San Francisco cop with a relentless sense of justice and a willingness to bend the rules, became a cultural touchstone and was reprised in several sequels. The phrase, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" entered popular culture and remains one of the most quoted lines in film history. Eastwood's portrayal of Harry Callahan resonated with audiences in an era of social upheaval, giving voice to frustrations while also sparking debates about law, justice, and vigilantism. Even as he thrived as a leading man, Eastwood demonstrated an ambition to shape his career beyond acting. He founded his own production company, Malpaso Productions, which gave him greater control over the films he made. He soon moved behind the camera, directing and producing a wide range of projects that allowed him to experiment with storytelling styles and explore themes of morality, redemption, and human complexity. His directorial efforts began to win critical acclaim with early successes like Play Misty for Me, 1971, showing his skill at crafting suspenseful narratives. Over time, his work behind the camera garnered as much respect as his on-screen presence. Eastwood's career as a director reached extraordinary heights with films such as Unforgiven, 1992, which earned him Academy Awards for both Best Director and Best Picture and is often considered one of the greatest westerns ever made. Million Doll Baby 2004 repeated that triumph again, winning him Oscars in the same categories and confirming his status as one of the finest filmmakers of his generation. Other notable directorial works, including Mystic River 2003, Letters from Iwo 2006, American Sniper 2014, and Sully 2016, demonstrated his ability to tackle varied genres with emotional depth and precision. His directing style, characterized by efficiency, minimalism, and a focus on storytelling rather than spectacle, has earned him admiration not only in Hollywood, but across the global film community. Outside of his professional career, Clint Eastwood has led a life marked by both complexity and individuality. Known for being fiercely independent, he has pursued personal passions in music, politics, and public service. A lover of jazz, he has composed and performed music for several of his films. In politics, he served as mayor of Carmel by the Sea, California from 1986 to 1988, demonstrating his commitment to community service and his willingness to step into leadership beyond the entertainment industry. On December 19, 1953, Clint Eastwood married Maggie Johnson, a stunningly beautiful young woman who was working as a model at the time. Their wedding came before Eastwood had achieved any real fame in Hollywood, making Johnson his partner through the years of struggle and early career building. The marriage would last for more than 3 decades, weathering the turbulence of Eastwood's rising stardom, his growing reputation as a Hollywood leading man, and his increasingly complicated personal life. Together, Eastwood and Johnson had 2 children. Their first child, Kyle Eastwood, was born in 1968 and would go on to establish a career as a respected jazz bassist and composer, carving out his own identity in the music industry rather than following his father's path into acting. Their second child, Allison Eastwood, arrived in 1972 and later pursued acting and directing, appearing in films and eventually working behind the camera. However, the marriage was often marked by Eastwood's extramarital affairs, which were well known in Hollywood circles. After years of strain, Clint and Maggie finally separated, and the divorce became official in 1984. Reports suggest that as part of the settlement, Maggie Johnson received somewhere between $25 million and $30 million, a substantial sum that reflected both Eastwood's financial success by that time and the length of their union. While still married to Johnson, Eastwood became romantically involved with dancer and actress Roxanne Tunis. Their relationship began in 1959 and continued until around 1973, overlapping heavily with his marriage. It was during this relationship that Eastwood fathered his first known child outside of wedlock, a daughter named Kimber, born in 1964. Kimber's existence was not publicly acknowledged at the time and remained relatively private for many years, as Eastwood maintained a carefully managed public image. Roxanne Tunis was known to have been part of the Hollywood scene as a stuntwoman and dancer, and her long-term connection to Eastwood suggested a relationship that was both personal and professional. The relationship eventually came to an end, but it was one of the most significant early affairs in Eastwood's complicated romantic history. In 1975, Clint Eastwood began a new chapter in his personal life when he moved in with actress Sandra Lockach. Their relationship was highly publicized and lasted for nearly 14 years, during which time they appeared together in a string of films, including The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976, Every Which Way Way Loose, 1978, Bronco Billy, 1980, and Sudden Impact, 1983. The couple's partnership was not just romantic, but also professional, with Locke becoming a recognizable presence in Eastwood's films. To the outside world, their relationship appeared strong, but behind the scenes it was fraught with complications. Eastwood was reportedly unfaithful during much of their time together, engaging in multiple affairs and fathering at least 3 children with other women during this period. Locke later spoke publicly about the betrayal she felt, and their eventual breakup in April 1989 was bitter, leading to a series of lawsuits and public disputes. The relationship with Locke marked one of the most dramatic and widely discussed periods of Eastwood's romantic life, underscoring the tensions between his public image and private behavior. Among the affairs Eastwood maintained, while with Locke, was a largely unpublicized relationship with Jocelyn Reeves, a flight attendant. Their romance was kept quiet for years, but it resulted in the birth of 2 children. Their son, Scott Eastwood, was born in 1986 and would go on to follow in his father's footsteps as an actor, appearing in films such as The Longest Ride, 2015, and Pacific Rim, Uprising, 2018. Their daughter, Catherine, was born in 1988 and pursued a career in screenwriting and occasional acting. The relationship with Reeves was conducted in secret, and Eastwood did not publicly acknowledge Scott and Catherine as his children until many years later, further contributing to the complexity of his family life. Following the end of his long-term relationship with Sandra Lockach in 1989, Eastwood entered into another high-profile romance, this time with actress Frances Pfizer. Fisher was a respected stage and screen actress known for her fiery presence and her work in films such as Unforgiven, 1992, in which she appeared alongside Eastwood. Their relationship was both professional and personal, lasting several years and producing one daughter, Francesca, born in 1993. Francesca Eastwood grew up in the spotlight and later pursued a career in acting and modeling, becoming a recognizable public figure in her own right. Although Eastwood's romance with Pfizer eventually ended, their relationship was regarded as one of the more stable and affectionate partnerships in his life, compared to some of the more turbulent ones that had come before. At 95 years old, Clint Eastwood has lived long enough to see entire generations of actors, directors, and cultural icons rise and fall. Throughout his decades-long career, Eastwood has rarely been one to gossip or dwell on other Hollywood figures. His reputation has always been built on quiet dignity, a man who preferred to let his work speak louder than any interview or headline. That is why when he finally decided to speak about fellow screen legend Robert Redford, the moment carried enormous weight. Both men shaped American cinema in ways that few others could match. And though their careers rarely intersected directly, their names have long been tied together as symbols of enduring star power. Eastwood, who has often been careful with his words, surprised many when he shared his thoughts. "Robert has always been someone I respected from a distance," he began. "We came up around the same time, and while we weren't often in the same circles, I always admired the way he handled himself. He had a style, a presence that was all his own." This was a rare moment of direct praise from Eastwood, who was not known for handing out compliments freely. The statement revealed that even in his own towering career, he remained aware of the artistry and influence of his contemporaries. The two actors represent different archetypes of American masculinity. Eastwood became the rugged face of the Western, the silent gunslinger whose steely stare could command a scene without a single word. Redford, on the other hand, embodied a polished charm, the golden-haired heartthrob who combined charisma with emotional vulnerability. Together, they painted two sides of the same cultural coin, and Eastwood seemed to acknowledge that duality. "He wasn't like me," Eastwood explained, and that was the point. He did what he did better than anyone, and it worked. You couldn't mistake Redford for anyone else. Fans and critics have often imagined what it would have been like if the two icons had shared the screen. The pairing of Eastwood's stoic grit with Redford's effortless charisma might have been electric, yet it never happened. Eastwood addressed this too. "People always ask me why we never made a movie together. The truth is, the timing never lined up. He had his projects, I had mine, and neither of us wanted to compromise what we were doing. But I don't think we needed to make a movie together to recognize what the other stood for. He was doing his thing and I was doing mine." Despite never collaborating, their careers often ran parallel. Both men eventually moved behind the camera, where they proved to be as gifted as directors as they were as actors. Eastwood built a reputation for stripped-down, emotionally raw storytelling, while Redford created Sundance, nurturing independent voices that reshaped modern cinema. Eastwood acknowledged this achievement with genuine admiration. What Robert did with Sundance was remarkable. He gave opportunities to filmmakers who might never have had a shot. That's not easy. It takes vision. It takes guts. He created a legacy that will outlive us both. What makes Eastwood's reflection so powerful is the sense of perspective that only comes with age. At 95, he no longer speaks as a competitor or even as a contemporary. Instead, he looks back at the shared journey of two men who defined eras of film and left behind bodies of work that continue to inspire. "I guess when you get to my age, you start thinking about the people who walk the same road," Eastwood said softly. Robert was one of those people. He carried himself with grace, and that's something I always respected. Hollywood isn't an easy place to survive with your dignity intact. He managed it. The comment was vintage Eastwood, measured, understated, yet filled with meaning. It wasn't flashy or sentimental, but it was heartfelt. In just a few words, he managed to capture the essence of Redford's contribution to cinema while revealing something of himself. For decades, audiences have admired Eastwood for his strength, his silence, and his command of the screen. But in this late chapter of his life, his willingness to speak openly about his peers shows another side, one of reflection, humility, and gratitude. Eastwood's words about Redford serve as both a tribute and a reminder. In the world of Hollywood, where egos often clash and rivalries dominate headlines, two giants of cinema managed to coexist, each carving out his own place in history. "We didn't need to compete," Eastwood concluded. We both found our way, and I'm glad he was out there doing what he did. The movies are better because of it.